It was a crisp Thursday morning in Ohio, the kind where the leaves crunch underfoot and the air smells like fresh coffee from the corner diner. I, Matthew, a 74-year-old retired history teacher, had been looking forward to the community board meeting at the library. I'd spent nights scribbling notes on yellow legal pads, outlining my idea for a veterans history project. It was my way of staying sharp, giving back to the town that had been home since I built this house with my late wife. But as I settled into my chair at the long oak table, surrounded by neighbors I'd known for decades, something felt off. The voices around me were muffled, like whispers through a thick fog. I fiddled with my ears, panic rising. My hearing aids gone. I leaned forward, straining, but caught only fragments. "Matthew, your thoughts?" someone asked, repeating louder. Faces blurred with pity as they shouted, their words bouncing off the walls. My cheeks burned hot. I'd prepared so well. Yet here I was, looking like a fool who couldn't keep track of his own things. Did I leave them at home? Or was this no accident? The meeting dragged, my ideas unspoken, drowned in embarrassment. As I shuffled out, frustration boiled inside me. This wasn't just a bad day, it felt deliberate. And when I got home, the answer was waiting for me, with a smirk. Just before you continue to watch, Joe would like you to subscribe to this channel and like this video. It would encourage him to keep his streak of thrilling revenge stories for you to watch. Alright, back to the story. Pushing open the front door, the familiar creak echoed through the quiet house. There, sprawled on my worn leather couch like he owned the place, was my grandson Tyler, thumbs flying over his phone screen. He looked up, that smug grin spreading across his face, the one that made my blood simmer. In his hand, he dangled something small and shiny, my hearing aids, glinting under the lamplight. "Oh, Gramps, how'd the meeting go?" "Bet it was a real ear-opener," he chuckled, tossing them lightly in the air before catching them. His laughter rang out, sharp and mocking, like he was the king of comedy. My stomach twisted. This wasn't some light-hearted tease. He'd hidden them on purpose, knowing I'd be humiliated in front of the whole board. I stood there, fists clenched at my sides, staring at this 19-year-old kid who'd turned from helpful to hurtful. Once, he'd mow the lawn without asking. Now, he treated my hearing loss like a game. I snatched the aids back, slipping them in, the world sharpening around me. He kept laughing, oblivious to the storm brewing in my chest. But I didn't yell, not yet. I just nodded, forcing a weak smile. That smirk of his lit a fire in me, one he would soon regret. That night, after the smirk faded from Tyler's face, I couldn't shake the anger bubbling inside me. This wasn't his first jab at my hearing. At family dinners, he'd mouth words like a silent movie actor, chuckling when I'd lean in, confused. Or he'd bellow instructions in that fake, over-the-top voice, like I was a deaf old dog. "Gramps, you hear me now," he'd say, slapping his knee in laughter. But hiding my aids? That was no prank. It was a slap in the face, leaving me stumbling through the meeting like a lost puppy in front of folks I'd taught history to back in the day. Neighbors who respected me now pitted me, all because of his fun. I sank into my armchair, the one with the faded plaid that still smelled like my wife's perfume, and watched him scroll on his phone, oblivious. My hands trembled, not from age, but from rage. He thought he could toy with me, reduce me to a joke. But oh, he had no clue. I'd survived wars in books and real-life losses. A cocky kid was nothing. Staring at his back, I whispered to myself, "Game on." And from that night on, my plan began to take shape. Folks often peg old-timers like me as fragile, like we're wilted flowers ready to crumble at a breeze. Sure, I don't sprint like I did in my teaching days, chasing rowdy kids down hallways, but 40 years in the classroom honed my skills sharp as a tack. I could spot a bully from a mile away, sniff out arrogance like a hound on a scent, and dish out lessons that stuck like glue. Tyler, he figured I leaned on him too much, that I was soft, easy to push around without pushback. Big mistake. He saw a dependent grandpa, fumbling with tech and forgetting names, but I was the one who'd outsmarted principals and parents alike. No, I wouldn't holler or ground him like a child. That was too easy, too forgettable. Instead, I'd craft a trap so clever it'd sting for years, like stepping on a Lego in the dark. He'd learn respect the hard way, through his own greed and slip-ups. As I sipped my evening tea, watching him lounge without a care, I plotted quietly. All it took was patience, the kind only age teaches. All I had to do was bait the hook and let him bite. The sun peeked through the kitchen curtains the next morning, casting golden stripes on the table where I'd laid out my trap. I called Tyler over, my voice shaky on purpose. Boy, these online accounts are a maze. Can you help this old fool log in? I fumbled with the laptop, muttering about forgotten passwords, while making sure he spotted the stack of papers nearby. Bank statements peeking out, envelopes labeled with words like pension fund and savings account. His eyes flicked over them, that smirk of his twisting into something sharper, like a fox spotting a henhouse. He leaned in, clicking away, but I caught the glint of interest, the way his fingers paused just a second too long on the screen. Sure, Gramps, no problem, he said, his tone too sweet, like honey over vinegar. I nodded gratefully, hiding my grin. He'd always hinted at money troubles, borrowing cash here and there. Now, with these secrets in plain sight, his curiosity bloomed into greed. I had him hooked, distracted by dollar signs dancing in his head. And once I saw that hunger in his eyes, I knew exactly how to trap him. After that morning, Tyler stuck around like glue, offering help I didn't ask for, fixing the squeaky door, sorting mail, all with that fake smile plastered on. Hey, Gramps, ever think about updating your will? He'd slip in casually. Or what's your pension like these days? I played along, scratching my head, acting foggy. Oh, it's all numbers to me, son. Don't know half of it. Inside, I was chuckling, sharpening my plan like a blade on a whetstone. Patience was my weapon. I'd learned it from years of waiting out stubborn students who'd crack eventually. No rush. I wanted him bold, sloppy, thinking he had the upper hand. He'd hover while I napped, eyes darting to drawers where I'd stashed more important papers. His questions grew bolder, probing deeper, but I fed him crumbs, just enough to whet his appetite. He thought I was clueless, a doddering old man ripe for the picking. But every fake yawn, every mumbled response, built the illusion. Soon, he'd overreach, grab for what wasn't his. And soon, he'd take the bait I dangled in front of him. One lazy afternoon, sunlight filtering through the blinds like lazy dust motes, I put phase 2 into action. I rummaged through the kitchen drawers, sighing loud enough for Tyler to hear from the living room. Darn it, where'd I put that envelope? I muttered, pulling out odds and ends. The one I lost was labeled Trust Fund Beneficiaries, in bold marker, fat and tempting. Tyler poked his head in, casual as could be. What's up, Gramps? Lose something again? His voice had that edge, like he was humoring a kid. I held up the envelope just long enough for him to read the label, then shoved it back half-heartedly. Oh, nothing, just some important papers about inheritance stuff. Don't worry your head. But his eyes locked on it like a magnet to metal, hungry and sharp. He lingered, pretending to grab a snack, but I knew the seed was planted. He'd wonder about that trust fund, imagine dollars piling up with his name on them. It was like dangling a carrot in front of a donkey. He couldn't resist. That envelope would be the key to his downfall. With the bait set, I upped the ante. I slipped a tiny voice recorder under the cushion of my favorite armchair, the one Tyler always plopped into when he thought I wasn't looking. It was small, like a pack of gum, but powerful enough to catch every whisper. The next day, I announced I was heading to the store for milk, left the envelope right on the coffee table, bold as brass. Don't touch anything, I said with a wink, but I knew he would. Out the door I went, heart thumping like a drum in my chest. An hour later, I crept back in quietly. The envelope vanished. I fished out the recorder later that night, hit play. There it was. Footsteps, drawer creaking open, paper rustling. Then Tyler's voice, low and triumphant. Finally, let's see what the old man's hiding. A chuckle followed, smug as ever. I paused the tape, a grin splitting my face. Gotcha, boy. The trap snapped shut a little tighter, evidence stacking up like dominoes ready to fall. And the next step would tighten the noose even further. That evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the kitchen in orange hues, I called Tyler in from the living room. He sauntered over, phone still in hand, like he was doing me a favor. What's up, Gramps? I sat at the table, rubbing my temples, playing up the confusion. The bank called earlier, something about my accounts. I need help phoning them back tomorrow. These things baffle me. His eyes narrowed just a bit, then lit up like a slot machine hitting jackpot. He shifted on his feet, probably picturing himself as co-signer. dipping into my savings like a kid raiding a cookie jar. Sure thing, he said, way too fast, that smirk creeping back. Eagerness dripped from him like sweat on a hot day. He figured he was the smart one, pulling strings on a puppet grandpa. But I was the puppeteer here, strings taut and ready. As he nodded and walked off, whistling, I leaned back, satisfied. He'd bitten deeper into the bait. And tomorrow, he'd walk straight into the lion's den. Morning light filtered through the curtains, and I shuffled into the kitchen, gripping my coffee cup with shaky hands on purpose. Hot liquid sloshed close to the rim, nearly spilling onto the counter. Whoops, I muttered, steadying it just in time. Tyler watched from the table, munching cereal. I don't know what I'd do without you around, Tyler, I said, voice all grateful and frail. His chest puffed up, pride beaming like a lighthouse in fog. Yeah, Gramps, you'd be lost without me, he replied under his breath, but loud enough for my aides to catch. I bit my tongue hard to stifle a grin. Oh, the irony, like a mouse boasting to a cat. He thought he held the reins, that my dependence was his power. But I was testing the waters, seeing how deep his ego ran. Every word, every smug glance, added fuel to my fire. As we finished breakfast, he grabbed his keys, eager for the bank trip. Little did he know, this was his stage, and the spotlight would burn. And at the bank, his arrogance would be put on display. We pulled up to the bank in Tyler's beat-up truck, the engine rumbling like an old bear. I leaned heavy on my cane as we walked in, each step deliberate, while he strutted ahead, chest out like a peacock in a parking lot. The place smelled of polished wood and fresh paper, tellers clicking away behind glass. I'd snuck in yesterday, alone, spilling the beans to Mr. Harlan, the manager, a sharp fellow I'd known since he was knee-high. Told him about the pranks, the greed, the plan. He nodded, eyes twinkling. Everything was set like a chessboard. Tyler plopped down in the chair, legs wide, thinking this was his ticket to my wallet. We're here to update accounts, he announced to Mr. Harlan, who shook my hand warmly. I sat quiet, watching Tyler's confidence swell like a balloon about to pop. He figured he'd charm his way to cosigner status, siphon funds easy as pie. But oh, every fib he spun would hang in the air, recorded by watchful eyes. And the manager was ready to play his part. At the counter, Tyler flipped on his charm switch, flashing that grin like a used car salesman. My grandpa here, he sometimes forgets stuff, he said, smooth as butter, leaning on the marble top. That's why I handle his accounts for him. He shot me a look, expecting a nod, like I was his puppet on strings. I paused, letting the quiet drag on like a bad movie scene, then cupped my ear. What's that, Tyler? You're saying you manage my money now? Mr. Harlan's eyebrow shot up, pen hovering over his notepad. Tyler's face flickered, color draining a tad, as he stammered. Well, yeah, I help out a lot. The air thickened, tension coiling like a spring. I kept my face blank, innocent as a lamb, but inside I was grinning ear to ear. He'd walked right into it, his lies flapping like flags in the wind. Mr. Harlan cleared his throat, eyes narrowing just right. And the manager's next question pushed him over the edge. Tyler stormed out of the manager's office, his face twisted like a lemon squeezed too hard, shooting me a glare that could curdle milk. The door clicked shut, leaving just me and Mr. Harlan in the quiet room, papers stacked neat on his desk. He leaned forward, voice low. Matthew, you sure about this? We can stop if it's too much. I straightened my back, feeling every one of my 74 years, but stronger than ever. Every last bit of it. I replied, my words firm as oak. Tyler had pegged me for weak, a doddering fool who'd roll over at a prank. But I'd built this plan brick by brick, like the house I shared with my wife long ago. He was about to crash into reality, hard as a truck into a wall. Mr. Harlan nodded, sliding a form my way. We wrapped up quick, me signing where needed, the trap's jaws inching closer. As we left, Tyler waited outside, fidgeting like a kid caught with candy. He had no clue the real show was brewing. The inheritance bait was waiting back home. Back at the house, the air felt thick with anticipation as I set the trust fund envelope smack in the middle of the kitchen table. Tyler trailed in behind me, still sulky from the bank fiasco, but his eyes snapped to it like a magnet. Tyler, I said, keeping my voice steady. You've been such a help lately. Come see this. He perked up, greed flashing across his face faster than lightning. I slid the envelope over, watching him rip it open with trembling hands. Inside lay the document I'd whipped up. Fake as a $3 bill but dressed up official, with seals and fancy print, naming him sole heir to a special account worth a bundle. His breath hitched, eyes wide as saucers, hands shaking like leaves in a storm. "Gramps, this is, wow," he stammered, that smirk blooming into a full grin. Proof right there. His heart wasn't in helping, it was in grabbing. But in that rush, he forgot caution, like a fish swallowing hook, line, and sinker. And in his excitement, he made his biggest mistake yet. Tyler's face lit up like a kid on Christmas as he clutched that fake inheritance paper, his eyes devouring every line. He plopped down on the couch, pulling out his phone without a second thought. Fingers flew across the screen, and in the reflection of my glasses, perched just right on my nose. I caught the message clear as day. Finally getting what I deserve from the old man. Sent to some buddy, no doubt, bragging about his windfall. My chest squeezed tight, a mix of hot anger and cold disappointment washing over me like a sudden storm. This wasn't just pranks anymore. It was outright theft in his mind, stripping an old-timer bare. He thought I was blind to it all, too foggy to notice. But that slip-up? Gold. I turned away, busying myself with dishes, resolve hardening like concrete. No more games. This was war, and I'd arm myself to the teeth. And so, I began gathering the evidence to destroy him. For the next few days, I played the part to perfection, shuffling around the house like nothing had changed. Tyler strutted about, cockier than ever, thinking he held all the cards. Late nights, I'd hear him on the phone in his room, voice hushed but excited. "Big money coming my way soon, man. Gramps is clueless." I'd nod along in the mornings, flipping pancakes, asking about his day like a doting grandpa. But behind closed doors, I huddled with my recorder, replaying every damning word. The smirks, the mocks, the greedy plots. I jotted notes, time-stamped slips, building a case solid as a brick wall. Evidence piled up, texts glimpsed, whispers captured, his arrogance on tape. He wanted to impress his crowd, flash cash he didn't earn. Fine by me. I'd let him bask in that false glow a bit longer, the quiet thickening like fog before a downpour. And soon, I would unveil it in front of everyone he wanted to impress. I leaned back in my chair one evening, the plan humming in my mind like a well-oiled machine. "Tyler," I said over dinner, poking at my peas, "you're coming to the next community board meeting with me. It'll teach you some responsibility." He groaned, rolling his eyes like a teenager dragged to church, but muttered, "Fine, whatever." He thought it was just another boring old folks gathering, a chance to nap in the back. But I'd already made my moves, slipped copies of those recordings to key folks on the board, the ones who'd seen me humiliated that first time. Mr. Harlan from the bank, the librarian, even the pastor. They listened, jaws dropping, and nodded when I explained. This wasn't petty payback. It was a masterclass in consequences, etched deep like words on a tombstone. Tyler had no inkling half the room knew his dirty secrets. As he shoveled food, oblivious, I sipped my water, calm as a pond before a ripple. And the stage was set for his humiliation. The church hall buzzed with chatter as folks settled into folding chairs, sunlight pouring through tall windows like golden rivers on the shiny wood floor. Tyler slumped next to me, thumb scrolling his phone like it held the secrets of the universe. I sat straight, envelope tucked in my jacket, heart steady despite the thrill. The chairman banged his gavel, calling order, and the room hushed like a classroom before a test. I waited a beat, then rose slowly, came tapping for effect. "Before we dive in," I announced, voice clear through my aids, "I've got something personal to share." Heads turned, curious eyes on me. Tyler barely glanced up, earbuds half in, lost in his screen. Perfect. His nonchalance would make the fall sweeter, like a high dive into shallow water. I gripped the envelope, feeling the weight of justice in my hand. Because when I pressed play, his world would collapse. I cleared my throat, the hall so quiet you could hear a pin drop on the wooden floor. "Folks," I began, voice steady as a rock, "I've been mocked in my own home by my own kin. Tyler here hid my hearing aids right before that last meeting, leaving me fumbling like a fool in front of you all." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, heads turning toward us. Tyler froze mid-scroll, his phone slipping a bit in his hand, that eternal smirk melting away like ice in summer sun. He straightened up, forcing a chuckle. "Come on, Gramps, it was just a prank. Lighten up." But his voice wobbled, eyes darting like a cornered rabbit. The board members leaned in, faces a mix of shock and disapproval. I wasn't finished, not by a long shot. My hand dipped into my pocket, fingers closing around the recorder, cool and ready. And with one click, his own voice would betray him. I thumbed the play button, and Tyler's voice boomed through the hall, tinny but clear as day from the little device. Finally, getting what I deserve. His recorded laughter bounced off the walls like mocking echoes in a canyon. The color leached from his face, turning him pale as milk, as every eye in the room locked on him. Board members gasped, shaking heads in disbelief, whispers buzzing like angry bees. Tyler squirmed in his seat, chair creaking under him, mumbling, "It was just a joke, guys. No big deal." But nobody bought it. Their stares drilled holes right through his facade. He looked at me, pleading silent, but I held firm, face like stone. That voice, his own words, hung heavy in the air, damning him more than any accusation I could make. And I wasn't done. I had another recording. I thumbed the recorder once more, the click echoing like a judge's gavel in the hushed hall. Tyler's voice spilled out again, cocky and cold. "Gramps is old and forgetful. Time I take over his accounts." The words hung heavy, slicing through the silence like a knife through butter. Folks I'd known for years, the librarian with her kind eyes, the pastor who'd married my wife and me, shook their heads slow, disappointment etched on their faces. Tyler, who'd aimed to wow them with his swagger, now shrank under their stares. He slapped hands over his face, peeking through fingers like a kid caught stealing cookies, his shoulders slumping as arrogance crumbled to dust. Whispers buzzed, judgment thick as fog. I stood tall, letting it sink in, the room's air crackling with his shame. He'd mocked me private, now the public stripped him bare. And then I revealed the final piece of bait. I pulled the envelope from my jacket, handing it to Mr. Harlan, who stood nearby like a silent ally. "This," I declared, voice steady as a heartbeat, "was the bait," and he swallowed it whole. Gasps rolled through the hall like thunder, eyes widening as Harlan unfolded the fake inheritance paper, holding it up for all to see. Tyler leaped to his feet, fists balled tight, face red as a beet. "You set me up, you sneaky old." His voice cracked like thin ice under weight, words crumbling. I locked eyes with him, calm as a still pond. "No, Tyler, you set yourself up with your greed and mocks." The truth hit him square, like a punch he never saw coming. He staggered back, the fight draining out, leaving just a shell of the cocky kid he'd been. And with those words, he broke completely. Tyler bolted from his chair like a rabbit from a fox, storming down the aisle with shoulders hunched, but not fast enough to hide the glint of tears streaking his cheeks. The hall fell into a hush, folks averting eyes as he passed, whispers chasing him like shadows. He'd aimed to crush my spirit in secret. Now his own pride lay in pieces before the very crowd he'd mocked me to. I stayed put, rising slow to shake hands with the board, Mr. Harlan clapping my back, the librarian nodding respect. "Well played, Matthew," someone murmured. Dignity flowed back to me like a river after drought, warm and steady. Tyler, he'd carry this scar, the echo of judgment ringing in his ears long after the doors slammed shut. No chase from me. Let him stew in his own mess. And when we got home, the silence would speak louder than words. The drive home dragged in thick silence, Tyler gripping the wheel white-knuckled, eyes glued to the road. Once inside, the quiet hit like a blanket of snow. He slunk to the couch, avoiding my gaze, lips sealed tight. I didn't prod. That hush was the real teacher, heavier than any scolding. No gloating from me, no raised voice. I fetched my hearing aids from the drawer where I'd stashed them safe, popped them in, and flicked on the TV to a history show, volume just right for my ears. The glow lit the room, sounds crisp and clear, screaming without words. This is my turf, my call, my earned respect. He fidgeted, staring at the floor, the weight of it all pressing down. No smirks now, no jabs, just the lessons sinking in deep. And Tyler finally realized this was the last time he could mock me. In the weeks that followed, Tyler changed like a leaf turning in fall. He never touched my hearing aids again, Never cracked a joke about my age or fumbled steps. No more smirks when I'd ask him to repeat something. Instead, he'd mumble replies and skitter away, eyes down like a scolded pup. If he popped by, it was quick. Drop off groceries, mutter a hello, then bolt. Avoidance hung between us, thick as fog, but it suited me just fine. I'd reclaimed my space, my peace, without a single raised voice. Because that day in the hall, when his world cracked open like an egg underfoot, I drove home the point sharp as a nail. Mess with me. Think I'm weak, and you'll learn the hard way. Underestimate this old history teacher once, and it'd be your last slip-up. Tyler carried that weight now, a shadow in his step, and that lesson will haunt him for the rest of his life. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video, comment, and smash the subscribe button. Also check out other videos on the channel. Joe's got more interesting stories for you.